Good morning, everybody. We'll make a quick contact switch from technical discussion to a sneak peek about how VCs think. My name is Nathan. I'm a managing partner with Hyperwise Ventures. I want to open by thanking you, first the audience, for taking the time and joining us in this amazing event, and obviously also to the organizer of the event. I'm going to start with giving you a brief introduction about Hyperwise Ventures, the venture capital that I'm a managing partner with. Our focus is managing seed rounds. So we are the first major money that is invested in a startup. So we lead seed round in Israeli and Israeli-related, either cybersecurity startups or enterprise software startups. And philosophy is based on highly concentrated portfolio, which means unlike other VCs that would spray and pray, we'll make many small investments in many startups. We have concentrated portfolio, so every fund will back anywhere between 10 to 12 startups. It means that our hit rate needs to be significantly higher than the alternative. So the first fund was launched on March 2020, 2 weeks before COVID entered our life. And it was a $70 million fund. We backed 9 startups. We already had 9 exits. And then the current fund was launched on June 2022. It's a $115 million seed fund. We already have invested in 6 startups. We are about to finalize our 7th investments. All in all, we have about 5 more startups to go. Organically, we keep $1 per dollar for the A round, leveraging our preemptive rights. And if we think that the B round can generate at least 3x on our investment, we are going to leverage our preemptive rights, create an SPV, and organize the capital from our LPs and double down on the B rounds as well. In terms of our investors, our LPs, limited partners, while we do have very large institutional investors that are following us for at least 5 years now. As an example, one of the largest Israeli pension funds is an LP with Hyperwise. We also have a relatively long list of high net worth individuals who are themselves global leaders in the industries that we focus on. I'll do some name dropping. So when it comes to cybersecurity, Shlomo, the co-founder of Checkpoint, the CEO of Imperva, the current CEO of Cato is an investor. Miki and Rakesh, for those of you who are familiar with them, the co-founders of Trusteer that got acquired by IBM, currently the co-founder of Transmit Security. On the enterprise software side, Paul Maritz, the former CEO of VMware, is an investor. Eyal Waldman, the former CEO of Mellanox, and many more. Oren Zeev, and so forth. Typically, those LPs are interested in co-investment opportunities that we encourage. Whenever we lead a seed round, we propose to the founders to select from the list 3-4 names, to pitch them if they like what they hear, and we end up investing. In many cases, they will follow us and they will invest directly in the startup, which will allow the co-founder to develop direct relationship with these guys and get their assistance. One of the areas that we pride ourselves on is the fact that unlike many other VCs whose their managers are MBA guys, myself and my 2 partners were entrepreneurs, much like the entrepreneurs that we are investing in. And we understand and we know hands-on what it takes and the journey, the long and winding road from a PowerPoint presentation to the exit. So I have more than 28 years of experience in the high-tech arena, primarily working for startups, either as a VP sales, or as a CEO. Already in 96, I joined my first startup that was called Enigma. I worked there for 9 years, out of which 3.5 years I was a VP sales out of Boston. And then additional 3.5 years, I was their VP sales Europe out of Munich. And then in 2006, together with an amazing DBA, a gentleman by the name of Slavik Markovic, later the CEO of the Misto, currently the CEO of Disco. When I met with him in 2006, he was a brilliant DBA, and together we have founded a cybersecurity startup that was called Centrigo. We moved to the Bay Area in 2008, and in 2011 we sold the company to McAfee. I was then working for McAfee out of Santa Clara for additional 3 years as their global VP sales for database security, moved back to Israel, and then decided to resign to establish another cybersecurity startup. And this is when I met my two partners ever since. First of all, as you can see, they are 25 years younger than me, which is not difficult. They are coming from a very unique background, from their military service, working for the Israeli military intelligence as cyber researchers. And after they finished their military service, they invented an amazing technology, a very innovative technology for identifying evasive attacks. They raised seed money from Shlomo Kramer, Miki Budai, Gio Aronekesh-Lunkar. They left the room for a CEO. I just departed from McAfee and I decided to join them. And together we have founded a cybersecurity startup that was called Hyperwise Security. A year later, we got acquired by Checkpoint. And then the three of us have been working as executives for Checkpoint for additional 4.5 years. 2019, we decided to depart and establish our own fund. So we have hands-on experience across all facets of establishing a startup on the technical front, as well as the go-to-market sales and executive management. As you know, establishing today a cybersecurity startup is quite challenging. It's challenging for the founders, and it is even more challenging for the investor. The problem is that the multipliers in a case of a successful exit when it comes to cybersecurity are so high that anybody and everybody today want to establish a cybersecurity startup. The space became extremely crowded, many Me Too solutions. It's very difficult to differentiate and to distinguish between the various offerings and the sub-niches that are being covered. It's a nightmare for a CISO today to differentiate between the so many startups that are being hitting on their door on a daily basis. They cannot resolve additional alerts. They don't have the manpower or the understanding. We are all familiar with the CISO startup fatigue. And of course, we as cyber investors are familiar with this challenge. And for that reason, it is very important for us, especially as our investment philosophy is based on a highly concentrated portfolio, to handpick and to identify cybersecurity segments that are new and innovative, untapped, but on the other end can create a very important, immediate, and significant impact on the day-to-day of the CISO to attract attention and convince them to place an order. We have 5 leading criteria by which we have many more criteria, but 5 leading criteria by which we invest eventually in cybersecurity startups. Just for your knowledge, every year we meet with anywhere between 150 to 180 teams. Only 10% of them will move to the second meeting phase. And every year we invest in anywhere between 1 to 3 on the average out of 150 teams we meet annually. So the first two criteria are related to the founders. The first one is obviously the CEO. The CEO is the locomotive of the startup. And for that reason, it is a very, very important consideration for us. And we eventually are looking for CEOs that have a DNA of a CEO. What is the DNA of a CEO? Soft characteristics, but primarily we are looking for vision and charisma and leadership. And of course, very important, tenacity and perseverance, because we are speaking about a very long and winding road. Second criterion, which is quite unique to Hyperwise, is the fact that it's very important for us that the team, the founding team, will bring organic sales skills already built in before a product was even launched to the market. The reason is that today most solutions are based on SaaS applications, and for that reason, by baking sales consideration into the MVP are very, very important from the get-go. And in the case that the team itself does not have organic sales skills built in, we will introduce from our network sales professionals, especially in North America, in the States, that can bring these capabilities organically into the startup as early as possible. Then the 3 remaining criteria are related to the solution that the startup is planning to solve. First one is the fact that the solution needs to solve a real, material, and immediate problem. These are 3 very important characteristics that we demand on identifying. So it needs to be real, because as explained, CISO currently are swamped with so many Me Too and niche solutions. So the solution needs to solve a real problem, a material problem. So it is not a feature startup. It's not a feature company, but a solution that can evolve into a platform. And last, it needs to be immediate. As an example, if we are going to be approached, and we were by teams that are planning to offer cybersecurity for quantum computing, for example, this is not good for us. For us, it's science fiction. I mean, I do not see any commercial quantum computer, nevertheless, facing cybersecurity challenges there. Maybe other VCs would be interested in investing in this, not for us. Problem has to be immediate. Then the following criteria is the fact that for us, it's very important that the founders can convince us that they can release an MVP, minimum viable product, no later than 8 months from our seed investment. The market is so dynamic. If it takes 2 years to develop the solution, by the time it is released, the market is no longer to be there anymore. So the ability to release an MVP quickly is paramount for us. And last but not least, for us, it's very important that the solution will bring significant technical barrier to entry on one hand. So it would be very difficult to mimic, because today everybody is copying from everybody. And on the other end, it needs to be feasible. Feasibility may sound like a trivial criterion, but in many cases, it is not easy to identify whether the solution is feasible or not. Let me give you an example. Some solutions that we met that solve the real and material problem. Once we dug in, we found out that the daily cost associated with hosting the solution in the cloud will always going to be higher than whatever ARR the startup was going to charge their customers. So as they were adding more customers and growing the ARR, their expenses in the cloud would always going to be higher than their income. And of course, for us, it's not a feasible solution. So let me give you some example about our investments in the cybersecurity arena. Our first cyber investment was an external attack surface management company called Ionix. Since our investment, they've crossed the $10 million ARR, very unique and exciting solution. Another one is Argon Security. We pride ourselves on the fact that we have invested in the first CI/CD security startup that was later got acquired by Aqua Security. By the way, the CEO of Argon is sitting over there. A startup that is called Armo Security. It's a cloud runtime security leader, the only solution that is based on an open source agent, and they were recently admitted to the CNCF. For those of you who are familiar with open source, the CNCF incubation stage. And when it comes to NHI, we were the lead investor with Entro Security, the first NHI security startup that got funded. Since then, there are probably 5 to 8 additional players, but we were the first to market in identifying the problem and investing in Entro, which today is one of the market leaders in that space. So you are probably much more familiar with why NHI is important, but trying to reflect and apply everything I was telling you before about our investment criteria, specifically on the NHI security market. So for us, because of our technical background, we were familiar with the problem. We were familiar that when it comes to modern computing and modern coding, especially when it comes to cloud-based, today the developers are going to use many API calls and microservices and other pieces of code that in order to tailor them together for security reasons, you must use non-human credentials. And outside of the fact that this is going to become extremely popular and becoming extremely popular, the usage of non-human credential, but machine-based credential, we are speaking about a massive problem here. Large organizations are using on a daily basis millions of tokens, and most of them are completely getting oversight and neglected first by the IT manager or the DevOps, but more importantly by the CISO himself or herself. And the existing identity tools, such as Okta, do not deal with this significant problem. So this generates a great void security-wise with many organizations, and which is going to get larger and larger. And this was a security subsegment that we have identified that was untapped until we made our first investment. So for us, investing in, as explained before, because of the CISO fatigue and because of the fact that our hit rates must be significantly higher because we are not basing our investment philosophy on spraying and praying, for us, identifying a new security subsegment was very lucrative and significantly important for us. And this was one of the main reasons outside of the other element, which in the case of Entro was the founders themselves, which I'm going to speak about in a second, why we made this investment. We identified this problem as a major one. We thought that it was going to intensify, and we especially believe that when CISOs would understand what is the product that is being offered to them, they would get excited, they will get over the startup fatigue, they will pay attention, they will try it, and they will eventually buy it. And then moving to the next element, which is related to the founding team itself. For us, it is very important that the founders themselves will come from the domain expertise of the problem that they are solving. Some VCs may invest in a process which is called ideation, if you are familiar with this process. Some may call it a sunrising process. But ideally, a group of entrepreneurs that will meet with CISOs and will try to identify a problem by interviewing them. We believe that this process in many cases would generate synthetic problems, but we are interested in organic and authentic problems. And for that reason, for us, it's very important that the entrepreneurs would meet the problems that they were planning to solve during their day-to-day work. If, for example, they themselves are coming from a CISO background or a DevOps background or a security background, it is even more important for us because that means that they will share the same language with their customers, and their meetings and pitching the problem to the customer, again, is going to be very authentic. And it will increase the likelihood that the startup would succeed and gain first customers. For us as seed investors, the horizon is very limited to the A round. When we invest in seed, we expect the startup to reach anywhere between 500,000 to 1 million worth of ARR in 18 months, and then to launch an A round of fundraising. And for that reason, the ability to close first customer is extremely critical. It's a bloodbath out there for seed startups. And this is my last slide. Obviously, it's very important that the founders will demonstrate and convince us that they can execute. It's not enough to show us a fancy PowerPoint. It's to convince us on their ability to convert the PowerPoint into a plan and execute on that plan in terms of building an R&D team, releasing the product to the market in less than 8 months, and then generating anywhere between $500,000 to $1 million worth of ARR from using customers. At the end of the day, for an A-round investor, they would call customers and they will validate that customers are indeed using the product the way it published. And of course, when it comes to the adoption of the tool by the user, because of the CISO fatigue and the alert fatigue CISOs are currently concerned about, it's very important that the solution that is being released is going to be seamlessly integrated to the complete and security stack in the organization in a very easy-to-use manner. If alerts can be automatically or semi-automatically remediated and prioritized, this is very important to the CISO. If the product can replace an existing product, it's very important to the CISO. And last but not least, obviously, almost any new product is going to go through a POC process. It's very, very important that the founders will pay attention that the POC is going to generate immediate results. As an example, we met with startups that were focusing on nation-grade attacks, very rare attacks that will happen maybe one in a year. Think about how a POC may look. You deploy the solution with an organization, and you wait and you wait and you wait, and there are no alerts. And it's a major issue. So generating immediate and continuous value in a POC stage is extremely important for the startup and for us as seed investor. And last but not least, as explained, tenacity, perseverance, very, very important. This is at the end of the day a long and winding road, and the founders need to show and need to demonstrate that they can go the entire way, adapt, change, and get to the happy ending, hopefully. So thank you very much. I don't know if any of you have any questions. I'll be happy to answer 1 or 2 questions. Sure. And it's very difficult, but we try to invest in the first company that is established in a specific subsegment of cybersecurity. So there are other VCs that for them it's sufficient to have at least 1 player out of 3 or 1 player out of 5. For us, it's very important to invest in the first player in the game. And then you have, a headway of 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, very difficult to predict because, again, many teams will copy. By the way, for that reason, we would recommend our startup not to make a press release announcing the seed investment, but to wait until the A round. Again, it's a very cruel competition out there.
So given how rapidly changes are happening in the technology and security ecosystem, how do you guys as non-practitioners, I mean, I get it that you used to be practitioners and you're technical. How do you stay current on all of the changes to the threats and the architectures that practitioners are dealing with?
So we are very well involved, first of all, in the day-to-day of our startups, and we get a lot of updates from our startups, their customers. We have a board of advisors. We have CISOs that sit on our board. We don't have hundreds of advisors, but we have a loyal team of about 10 CISOs that would advise us. And my two partners are extremely technical, and they are part of a milieu and of a larger group of developers that are constantly being updated. This is a very good question because, at least for us, being up to date with the latest and the greatest is critical for our success. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the